Hello, and welcome to this virtual phone bank webinar. My name's Janet Grant, and I'm a volunteer with the Dekalb Dems, and I coordinate our phone banking efforts here. We are really pleased to have you attend today and to be part of our phone bank team to really make a difference in this upcoming important election on January the 5th. We're going to cover a number of things in this brief webinar. They really fall into three buckets. We're going to talk a little bit about why this is an important election and some of the details of how this election will happen over the coming weeks. We're going to review our script that we will be using in phone banking with voters and orient you to VPB Connect, which is the phone banking system that we will be using in this effort. So let's start with why this is an important effort for Dekalb County to be focused on and for your support in phone banking here in Dekalb County. So Dekalb, if you're not familiar with us, is a metro Atlanta county. And we have over 500,000, about 540,000 registered voters here in Dekalb. And most importantly, we are a blue county. We went 83% for Biden. So when you are talking about needing to get out your base for a runoff election, Dekalb is the perfect place to look. And that is a lot of the focus that we'll be talking about during this webinar is the effort that we're going to make to bring out the base, the Democratic base here in Dekalb. Phone banking is really our most effective tool, and we are going to be reaching out to those strong Democrats to make sure that they are getting out to vote. This election has really national implications, as you all are probably aware, in the fact that these two Senate seats will really determine the majority of the U.S. Senate for the next 4 years. And in terms of the history in Georgia, we have a chance to make a first. If Raphael Warnock is elected to the Senate, he would be the first Black senator from the state of Georgia. And in fact, we haven't had a Democratic senator from Georgia since 2004. So with the blue wave that we see happening across Georgia, the fact that we went for Biden as a state, first time since 1992, it's only fitting that we also elect two Democratic senators to be the capstone of the 2020 election season here in Georgia and make a difference nationally. So the main focus of the phone banking we're going to be doing really is a get out the vote strategy. We are really asking voters to make a plan to vote. When voters are asked to make a plan and commit to a plan, they're much more likely to follow through on that. We have 3 ways to vote here in Georgia. There is no excuse absentee voting that any voter can apply for. We have in-person early voting for the 3 weeks prior to an election, as well as, of course, in-person election day voting. So let's go over a few of the details related to the election, this upcoming election on January the 5th. This is information you'll certainly want to be able to understand, to be able to educate voters while you're phone banking. So we have this runoff. This election will be 3 races on the ballot, the 2 Senate seats, and then also the Public Service Commission. And the reason that we have runoffs in Georgia is because of a state law that requires any candidate to receive at least 50% plus 1 vote in a general election in order to win an election. So in both of these state Senate seats and also in the Public Service Commission seat, there was no candidate receiving over 50% of the vote. So our Democratic candidates, as you're probably well aware, are Jon Ossoff and Raphael Warnock for the Senate, and Daniel Blackman, who is an impressive candidate for the Public Service Commission. And the Public Service Commission is an important commission here in Georgia that oversees utility rates, initiatives related to climate change, as well as broadband kind of access. All of those are enhanced importance in the pandemic situation that we find ourselves in as well. So voter registration deadline is December the 7th. So voters can still register up until December the 7th to participate in this election. They did not have to vote in the general election in order to be able to vote in the runoff election. Absentee ballots can be requested a number of ways. The easiest is that our Secretary of State has put up an online portal recently. That's a very easy way to apply. Or there are paper applications that can be returned to the County Board of Elections. And in fact, here in DeKalb County, they actually plan to also mail out a paper application to all registered voters with a postage paid return envelope along with it. So lots of ways that folks can apply for absentee ballots. Absentee ballots then, once they are received by the voter and completed, they need to be submitted by 7 p.m. on election day. If it's mailed, they actually again have to be received at the election office. It can't just be postmarked by election day. We also have drop boxes all across the county that can be used. That's a safe and easy way for return and to know that it's in time. It just needs to be in the drop box also by 7 p.m. on election day, or they can be returned certainly to the election office. We have early voting here in Georgia for the 3 weeks prior to an election. And so it will be starting on December the 14th and run through December the 31st. So closed both on Christmas Day and on New Year's Day. But the rest of those days between in that 3-week period will be accessible for early voting. And voters can vote in any early voting location across the county that they live in. But on election day then, polls will be open from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., but they must vote at their assigned precinct on election day. So here are a few of the most important resources. Again, there'll be more resources in the follow-up information that you'll have access to, but I wanted to highlight a few. The first one is the Democratic Party of Georgia website. They have a very robust section on voting, lots of information about how to vote, where drop boxes are, answers to just about any questions can be found in that section of the Democratic Party of Georgia website. They also run a robust voter protection program, which includes a hotline that is staffed literally 24/7 by volunteers and backed up by a whole team of attorneys. So a very robust resource that you'll see we refer voters to while we're phone banking as well. My voter page is the page on the Secretary of State website that each registered voter can access by putting in their information. They can see details about their registration, about where their assigned polling location is, their early voting sites, as well as track the status of their absentee ballot. So that is a resource that we want all voters to be familiar with. And then lastly, this request portal, the absentee request portal that I mentioned that the Secretary of State put up, you can either access it directly at this link or the Democratic Party of Georgia website literally now has a pop-up that comes up before you can proceed in the website with the link to that portal. So let's go on and talk a little bit about the script that we're going to be using while we're phone banking. So first of all, on average, when you phone bank, you reach about, to be able to speak directly with a person, you reach about between 7 to 15% of the voters on that first phone call. So that means that we're not reaching a number of folks, but we often have a chance to be able to leave a voicemail. And so, so we want to have you really impart some valuable information in that voicemail. The reason that you're calling, encouraging them about vote by mail, encouraging them to support the Democratic candidates, and then very importantly, giving them that phone number for the voter protection hotline so that if they do have questions, that's where they can call in order to get the answer to those questions. So that script will be when you go into the phone banking system, this suggested voicemail script is at the top of the script, so that you'll have it handy when you are phone banking and happen to get a voicemail. So the script itself, when you reach a voter, is really just to open up with kind of a warm welcome, introduce yourself, that you're a volunteer with the DeKalb Democrats, try and engage in order to establish a little bit of rapport, and to explain why we're calling, and that the main focus of our calling right now is around vote by mail or absentee applications. As we proceed closer to election, obviously the script will change slightly. We will start to emphasize more around early voting. The most current script will also always be posted for you so that you'll know that, and I will be sending information or posting information in our Slack channel that we'll talk about in a little while, in order to keep you up to date as those changes occur. So if a person is interested in absentee ballot, the next part of the script is really to give them information then about that, how they can access that portal, or if they want to use a paper application, how to also access that, how to return it, and then information about My Voter page so that they can track the status of their absentee ballot. If they've decided they don't want to use an absentee ballot, and as we all know, there has been a lot of concern about, or rhetoric about absentee ballots. And so, we have found that a number of voters would rather vote in person. So we again have two options if that's the kind of plan that they want to make. They have the in-person early voting for that 3-week period prior to the election, or on election day. And this information, again, is in the phone banking system. You'll have the information about where is the closest early voting site to them, as well as where their assigned polling location is. So, and then just to finally wrap up the call after you've really gone through the information about making that plan to vote, then we're really making some asks. We're asking them first to support the Democratic candidates, the 3 candidates for this election. And if they say that they are not supporting the candidates, which again probably will not happen very often given the voters that we're really targeting for these conversations. But if you find that there is someone that is not, then really just politely end the conversation at that point and move on to the next call. However, we're hoping most of them are. And if they are, then move on to also ask if they are interested in volunteering in order to support this effort over the coming weeks. And if they are, we're really asking you to try and get contact information so that we have a way to be able to reach back out to them. If there is a question along the way that you're not sure of, again, please give that voter protection hotline phone number for the voter to be able to reach out and ask for support in terms of any unique questions or situations. And then again, thank the person for being a voter, and thank them for their time, and be able to move on to the next call. So it really boils down to our voting message. We're really stressing absentee voting first, and then early voting as that comes available. We would like people to vote as early as they can. We want to get folks out as soon as they can, and know what their options are, and again, emphasize making that plan to vote. So with that, that's the script we're going to have loaded then in the VPB Connect phone banking system. So let's walk through a little bit of the technical details of how you operate the system. So VPB Connect is really, I consider it to be kind of the best of both worlds, a cross between more traditional phone bank van system and some of the auto dialers that you've seen. Our voters, our phone bankers have been using this system for the last few months, and have really appreciated the fact that it gives you a chance to have a little bit more control than you do in an auto dialer system, and yet it really helps automate the call a little bit more so that you can be more efficient when you're phone banking. So you do not need to use your own phone. However, if you decide that you would like to do that and you want to continue to manually dial a phone number, it also supports that. So let's talk about how to get into the system. So for those of you that have used either VPB Connect before or have used VAN before, a lot of this is going to look familiar. So the first thing you're going to do is when you receive your confirmation email for the registration for the phone bank shift that you have registered for, there will be a link in that email that will take you into the phone bank that we're working on for that day. So when you click that link, it will take you to the VPB system, and you will click on just the link there that says get started. That will take you to the login screen. And this is an Action ID login screen. If you have an Action ID from either past phone banking or from potentially from canvassing, this is the same Action ID that's used in the minivan app that we use when canvassing. So if you have that Action ID already, just put in your email address and your password and go ahead and log in, and it'll take you into the system. If you have forgotten your password, then click on forgot your password and then follow through the steps that it takes you through in order to establish a new password. If you do not have an Action ID, then click on create an account, Action ID account. And again, it will take you to a screen. You'll put in just some basic information about yourself and establish a password. And then it will get you into the system. So appreciate the fact that there is security here, given the voter records that are contained in this system. So one more thing that will happen then once you have logged in is if you want to use the automated feature of VPB Connect, it will trigger you to allow access to your microphone. And so that pop-up will come up. And again, if you want to make use of that automated feature here, go ahead and allow the system to have access to the microphone on your computer or your tablet, your iPad. So the first thing that you will see then is a screen that looks somewhat like this, although I've kind of cut and pasted some of this together. So you will, on the very left-hand side, you will see information about this voter and their voting location. So it'll show you the early voting location that is the closest to them. Remember, they can vote at any location in the county, but this is the one that's the closest to them. It will give their polling location for election day, the precinct that they're assigned to, and again, that address as well. Then you'll have the person's name, their phone number, and then you'll see the script in the system as well. So once you have kind of oriented yourself to who you're going to be calling, you'll also see their age, their sex. Then go ahead, and if you're going to call through the computer, you'll see there, it'll say call, and you just hit that call button and the system will make the call for you. If you are unable to reach the voter once you have called, then we ask that you go ahead and document the reason that you weren't able to reach them. And some of these do kind of auto-populate with VPB Connect, but I'm just going to walk through them real quickly for those that you need to manually enter. So, and I get these questions all the time, so I'm going to take a minute to walk through them. So not home is really when the phone just rings and rings and rings and you're not able to either get a voicemail or reach anybody. Refused is someone answers and refuses to speak with you. Deceased, you might reach someone and they say that the voter that you're trying to reach is deceased. So help us again clean up our records with some of these details. Same with moved, you might reach someone and someone answers or someone answers and says, hey, I now live in Tennessee. Then you click moved. Callback is that you reach someone and they've asked that someone call them back. And rather than you trying to do that because you're not going to be able to stay with their record in the system, hit call back and that will put them back in the queue for a call later. Busy is just a busy signal. If you've been able to leave a message, indicate that. And then of course, wrong number or disconnected. So at the same time as you're making these calls, you're also helping us clean up our records so that we can have cleaner records for future phone banking as well. So again, you're going to then leave a voicemail if at all possible. So then once you're reaching a voter, you're going to walk through the script that is actually in the system. So you don't have to have a separate piece of paper in front of you. That's all contained right in the system. And there are a series of questions that have drop-down boxes to answer yes or no to. I think there's only maybe 3 in our script today, so it's not a lot, but that again helps us document what the course of the call is and how voters are reacting. So at the very bottom of the script, we do have a note section to notate any kind of unusual issues or updated contact information. In particular, for people that are interested in volunteering, we ask to try and capture an email or any other contact information in order to be able to reach out to them about that volunteer opportunities. And then once you're done then with that call, then you're going to go ahead and hit the click the button on the upper right part of your screen that says save and next call, and that will move you on to the next voter on the next page. So when you are done with your shift, there is a button that says stop making calls at the very bottom right, and that is where you would click in order to log out of VPB Connect at the end of your shift. So again, I think I mentioned this earlier, the voters will, if you are calling through VPB Connect, they will see a party provided phone number. And we are making that a local Atlanta phone number. So those of you that are phone banking from other places, this is an easy way for us to make sure that voters are seeing a local phone number and with an increased likelihood of picking up the phone. So there are a few circumstances that may be difficult. For the most part, I think you are going to find, and we have found over the 6 months of phone banking we've been embarking on since the pandemic, that voters are really appreciative of the outreach, the information, and the support in making their plan to vote. But there may be a voter here or there that doesn't appreciate that. And again, for this phone banking effort, we are really going to be focusing on strong Democrats and making sure that we get that base out. So that probably will not happen often, but if you do find a voter that is difficult, then again, just politely end that conversation and move on and use your time wisely for voters that do appreciate the support that we have to offer. So I know that home banking sometimes can be intimidating, especially as people get started with it. But we have phone bankers that now phone bank every day with us and really appreciate the fact that they're able to make such a difference for these voters and make such a difference in what is turning out to be a very historic election year. So try and think about it from the perspective of that we are actually calling to offer voters information and support rather than that we are bothering them or asking something of them. So with that, I think you'll find phone banking to be a very rewarding experience. And again, keep in mind and keep this phone number handy for your use with voters. use that voter protection hotline as a real resource for voters. So with that, let's just talk a little bit about next steps before we wrap up. So first thing, I would encourage you just to review the resources, the information that's in this slide deck, the current phone script, as well as our FAQs. All of those will be available to you after this training. And as you sign up for phone banking, it'll be resources that are available. And we would strongly encourage you as soon as possible to sign up then to phone bank with us. DeKalb County is such an important place to get out the vote. So we really encourage your investment here in DeKalb County in order to help us win this thing. And we have 3 shifts a day available for phone banking from 10 to noon, 2 to 4, and 6 to 8. Remember, these are Eastern times. So make that translation if you are joining us from out of state. We are not going to be phone banking on Thanksgiving, Christmas Eve and Christmas Day and New Year's Day. But other than that, every minute between now and January 5th is going to be focused on winning this election. So when you register and mobilize for a phone banking shift, you will receive a confirmation email and then a reminder email the day before and the day of your shift. And in those emails, it will have the current phone bank code that we are calling. So I would encourage you to track and use the last reminder email that you receive, because that will have the most current code. I want you to have that because as we finish up phone banks and move on to new ones, you'll want to have the new link. That code, once you get it, is good all day. Our phone banking system opens at 9 a.m., so you're not even able to make calls before 9 a.m. Eastern time, and it will shut down at 9 p.m. Eastern time. And then finally, I would really encourage you to join Slack, our Slack for DeKalb Dems, our organizing Slack. It's a place that we really can communicate among our phone bank team. It's a place to ask questions, chat with other phone bankers for advice, etc., and get the latest updates. That's where I always post new information, new scripts, new information that we get about any of the election details that we want to inform voters of. So you will have access to that, an invite for Slack. It was in your confirmation email for this training and will be in your confirmation emails as you sign up for phone banking shifts. So please help us do this. DeKalb County is key to getting out the vote and really swinging the state of Georgia to elect these historic gentlemen to the U.S. Senate. And we need your help to do it, and really appreciate you attending this webinar and appreciate you making a commitment to now phone bank with us from now until January the 5th. And can really make a difference, not just in Georgia, but really in terms of the majority of the Senate, and make a difference for our country. Thank you for all you're doing and for all you're going to do in supporting this effort. Thanks, and have a great day.